And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Very
Okay.
exciting. I'm Dr. Gabriella Kőrösi, and I'm here with one of my favorite people and storyteller, DR Rawson. And today
Hi.
we are going to tell you a lot of stories. Always worried. Thank you so much for joining us so quickly.
My pleasure.
And DR, you want to say a little bit about yourself, and then we can jump in, sharing
Well,
stories.
yeah, I guess so. I didn't become, well, I said that. I didn't become a formal storyteller until 21 when somebody said, "What are you going to do now that you're retiring?" Trying, trying to retire for the 10th time. I said, "I
It's
don't
not
know."
really working for you, is it?
No, it's not. No, I clearly never really understood the concept of retirement. So anyway, my friend said, "So why don't you write?" What? Uh, Write? I can't write. Oh my gosh, I can't write. Do you know what my high school teacher said? Good thing you can speak because you can't write. And then when I went into college, you know what my college professor said? Oh man, you speak really well, but you can't write worth. So okay. So my friend said to me, he says, you've written like 30,000 emails. He says, I think I've gotten most of those, but he says, and then you've written tons of business plans, you've written contracts all over the world. He said, you can write. Give it a shot.
Yes.
I gave it a shot. So the results are in. And so far, I've written a little over 30 books, written or
This is
co-authored.
one of them.
That's one of them. Hmm.
This one of them we co-authored together with some other amazing people.
Yeah. There's one right here. This one. This was
There's
the
one
first.
right here.
This first one I wrote. There's that one. Oh my gosh. There's
I
these.
ran out of my
We have a
AI
bunch of
copies.
these. Oh,
Yeah.
geez. We could just keep going on forever. Plus all the fiction ones that I've written just for fun. Anyway, and plus the two that I wrote a long time ago. I,
Hmm.
in 1983, I was president of an international oil company, and I couldn't find a salesman. I could not find somebody to sell my product, and I just wanted to sell them locally. We were trying to get more business in the local market that we were in, and I couldn't
Yeah.
find anybody. So
Hmm.
I went down to a tech school and I said, "Don't you guys graduate any salespeople?" Sales? We don't have any courses on sales. I said, "What? What?" Oh, God, so frustrating. So I said, "Well, what if I write a course?" Well, that'd be great. If you write a course, we'll consider it. I said, "Okay." So I wrote three three lessons on that, and they said, "Wow, the stories in this are amazing. We love this.
Hmm.
Would you be willing to teach a class?" I said, "To whom?" All the instructors in school. I said, "Sure, why not? Yeah, yeah, I can do that." So I did it and got a standing ovation. And I said, "This is ridiculous." So I wound up writing this full book, and when I finished it, they said, "Okay, we'll buy it." Okay, so I just sold the whole book to the technical school, and that was it. But here's what I learned in the process. In the process of writing that book, I learned something I've told people globally, and that is that stories sell, details close.
Hmm.
Okay. We are all emotional buyers, very emotional.
Very true.
When we look at something, we go, "Oh yeah, no, don't feel good about it." Oh yeah, oh I like that one. Yeah, yeah, that resonates with me. Okay, so you instantly build this connection of trust, and so when you do, then you feel like, well, I can go ahead and commit to them. So it's kind of funny that way. I've done a lot of research in the last 5 weeks now on just trust, because another company that I have called the Las Vegas Television Company,
The newest one.
the newest one, yeah, it's the Las Vegas Television Network, and it's been around 11 years, but I just joined it about 3 months ago. And anyway, so I wanted to create a product that everybody could get for their websites, because websites are becoming so sterile now. It's just terrible. Anyway, so I wanted something so that people could instantly develop trust. Instantly. So what keeps people from converting to whatever it is that you want to do? Trust. It's just trust.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can build trust very, very rapidly, that would be to your benefit. So can I give you an example? Want to see one?
Oh, please do. You are the storyteller, so I'm just
Okay.
listening
All
and
right.
allowing you the space to share your wisdom.
Okay. So here's one I'll do for an accident attorney law firm.
Okay.
So you've just had an accident. You're scrolling through Google and you got the top 10 results. You start going through these one by one, and it says, we got 43 attorneys. We've done this. We've done this. We've settled this many claims. All about them. You get to the fifth one, and a voice stops you from scrolling and says, hi, I'm DR Rawson. I'm the lead attorney here at this firm, and I wanted to share with you exactly how we treat people, because you're in a situation right now where you're in a lot of pain and you're frustrated and you may even be angry. We understand all of those emotions. And so when you come here, what you get an opportunity to do is vent, and really vent. And let's get this thing all out on paper. And then you just turn it over to us. You stop worrying about it. We'll take care of the rest. It's that easy. And if that resonates with you, if that's something that you feel you can do, there's a number just below me. Call that number and let's talk. I'll talk to you personally. Then let's see what happened to you, because I want to help if I can be helpful.
Yeah.
Does that
And that's your line, right? That's the DR brand. How can I be helpful?
How can I be helpful? Yeah, that's the DR brand. Yeah. So anyway, we're building that with a number of people and a number of different industries and different things, and so that's going to be good. But I think storytelling is so important. Let's talk about kids for a minute. Storytelling with kids. You know, I've heard, and you've probably heard this since we were, just out of our being teenagers, we've heard that, oh, children are our future. They're so great. And yet so few people actually lift a finger to do anything about children. And you can see the effects of that right now. Do we write books? Oh, yeah, we write books. Do we write stories? Yeah, we write stories. Are we doing anything about their character? No. Are we doing anything about making them better citizens? No. Are we doing anything about their playground? Yeah, we're making sure it's really, 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 really safe. You couldn't fall and hurt yourself if you wanted to. But you can graduate school and not even understand what respect is. So a friend of mine, Rick Allen, who's going to be at my home, by the way, next week.
Oh, how wonderful.
Isn't that great? He's going to spend a week here.
That's amazing.
He's our mutual friend, and Rick's going to spend a week here. Hopefully it's a relaxing week for him. Anyway, so Rick and I were talking one day. We said we should write children's stories, stories that children could understand. So we said, okay, and we'd been doing an exercise about 100 words. You ever try and write a story about 100 words? You have, haven't you?
I have, because I
Yeah.
wrote those stories too.
Yeah. How easy was that? Not that easy, was it?
It was fun for me.
Yeah, it's fun, but when you first started, it was not that easy to do, right? People think they're writers, and then they say, "Okay, give me 100 words." Wait, just 100? Yeah, exactly. Not 99, not 101, 100 words. So we started writing these cute little stories about 100 words, and suddenly Rick says to me one day, he says, they should have a point, something besides, and they lived happily ever after. They should have a real point. And he says, I've been doing some
Hmm.
research on character traits. I said, oh, that sounds interesting. How many character traits are there? And he says, actually 53. What? Really? Where have they been all my life? Yeah, 53. Wow. I said, well, we can't teach 53 traits to kids. That's too many. I said, what if we whittled it down to like 25? We could do 25. He said, yeah, let's do 25. So we worked on it. We got it down to 25. And really, the most important are 10, and the other 15 are kind of supportive. But the first 5 are respect, responsibility, resilience, kindness, and joy. Now, when it comes to storytelling, if you tell stories that have those kinds of subjects, people listen.
Hmm.
That's interesting. That's interesting. And they actually do something. So we started writing stories like that for kids, and the parents loved them. And the kids loved the graphic that we put with them, because
Hmm.
it's all AI, and it's exciting. The colors are really off the chart and everything. So kids like that. But um, writing for kids, storytelling for kids, it's the way kids learn. They learn from stories. You know, I remember so many stories that my grandparents told me, and my parents not so much, but my grandparents told me. I'm
Hmm.
sure you do too. And if you think way back, and I mean way back, we're talking stone people, right?
Yes.
How do you think they communicated a story from one village to another? Mouth to ear. That's the way it happened. They didn't even have a methodology of writing it down. So stories became very important. You want to see that today in practical application, go to any third world country, and you can see that in real practical application, because that's how they teach their kids. That's because some of them don't even have schools. So they depend on those myths. They depend on those stories that the kids get when they're young to determine the outcome, to try and steer this kid into what they want them to be. Courageous, they want to be heroic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, something. So yeah, it becomes very important. And the quality of a storyteller just means they're going to remember it better than they would if you were a lousy storyteller.
Yeah, I do believe that that's how we meant to be. That's how it used to be. Even our most recent book that was specifically to women, from woman to woman. It's mentioned in there that storytelling used to be when mothers and grandmothers sit down around the fire in a circle. They are cleaning corn or whatever they are doing, but
Yeah,
then they are sharing stories and experiences, and then the kids learn from that. And I think we lost a lot of that, and it's important to bring it back. I think there's more and I think it's starting to pick up. There's more and more storytelling and circles of people coming together and sharing, but we can definitely do more. And starting with kids is the best way to do it, I think.
I think you're right. And something else that just occurred to me. I think one of the reasons that women are so smart is because when they're young girls, they get a chance to sit around and sew in circles. They get around and make quilts, and they make things together and do these creative things together. And while they're doing it, mothers and grandmothers are telling children and grandchildren stories.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember that because they put one and one together and they come up with a great story. And years later, they remember it. I remember we were putting a quilt together for so and so, and my grandmother said, and there's a story right there.
I remember cooking with my grandmother and she's telling stories or doing something in the garden or
Yeah.
any kind of activity. Yeah.
And the last time you saw a guy doing that was never, never.
I don't know. Do guys come together and share stories like that in any kind of? I mean, I don't know because I obviously not not one of
Well,
you.
I
So,
don't,
but do you have you ever done that with anybody coming together and sharing stories?
I have, and every time it's never been appreciated.
Oh, really?
Really.
But
Yeah.
I do know one occasion when it was appreciated.
What was that?
When you and I with with Lewis Harrison had a
Right.
session with your two of your grandkids. And that was
Oh, yeah.
storytelling and education and teaching. And,
Yeah.
there were the kids and then the three of us adults. And it was a great session.
Yeah.
It was intentional to come together like that, but it was beautiful.
It was extremely intentional. And uh, as we all know, those of us who knew Lewis Harrison had the privilege of knowing Lewis Harrison. He was a great storyteller, and
Yes, it was.
he could be really direct. But I think kids actually like that. They like
Hmm. Yeah.
punch you right in the face a little bit and say, "Here's what it is." War is hell. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, I know the session he had with my grandkids. Now, my grandkids both suffer from ADHD, and they both take medication for it. So they were all medicated up when we were sat down in front of Lewis on a Zoom call. And Lewis was so kind and patient with them, and he gave them stories, and they still talk about it to this day, and I hope they always will. But yeah, they were great stories. And I remember my grandfather telling great stories,
Hmm.
years later. And yeah, those kinds of stories mean something. And my dad had a habit of turning an everyday circumstance into a story.
Hmm.
And that made it memorable for me.
Yes.
And that was a cool trait that I thought my dad had. He died at age 42, so he didn't get a chance to do that too much. But my
Do you
grandfather,
remember do you remember any of those stories? Anything that comes to mind that your
yeah,
dad shared?
when my dad, oh, I'll give you a funny one. When my dad realized that I was going to be in business, because he wanted me to follow him in trades. He was a tool and die maker and then became an engineer. So he wanted to follow me into the trade. He wanted me to follow him into the trades. And I said, Dad, you got this finger all but gone from the knuckle up is gone. My grandfather's got like the tops of his fingers on both hands gone, all from machinery. I said, I like my fingers. I'm not doing that. And Dad said, so you don't think we're very good? I said, are you kidding me? To do what you do and have to know what you know about math and everything? Oh, I admire you, Dad. I think it's great for you. It's not great for me.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I I can't give you many pieces of advice for business, but he said, I'll give you a couple. Number one, don't do business with aerospace because they're flaky. Oh, okay, good to know. He says, then here's the other one. Now, let's see if you get this right away. As you amble on through life, whatever be your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole.
I remember this one.
Did you get that? I've told you that before, haven't I?
You shared that before. Yes.
Yeah. So you're cheating. So
I am cheating.
yeah, you're cheating. So your listeners haven't heard it. So let me tell you, I listened to that, and I guess I wasn't very astute when I was in my my early pre-adult. I was still in my teens when he told me this, and I was in my 20s something, probably late 20s, when I suddenly went, "Oh, oh, I get it. I Why didn't I see that before?" And I finally got that. And when I got it, it made a big difference. It made a huge difference. Now your listeners are going to have to figure out what that is.
You're not gonna tell them?
Oh, why would I want to spoil it? You know, there's
Oh.
great wisdom there. Let's see if they pick up on it and know what it is. But it's
So anybody who is listening, please share in the comments if you got what DR said. Why you keep your eye on the donut and not the hole? What does it mean? What you guys think? We'd
yeah,
love to see some answers.
yeah.
And maybe he'll share with us in the end. But there's previous videos with DR. If you want to cheat, you can look through our YouTube channels and find the answer too.
You send them on a hunt. That's great. That's great. But storytelling is it's a skill, just like anything else. And I think
Yeah.
that parents who can sit around with their children and tell a story
Mm-hmm.
and have the children remember that story. Oh, I remember that story, Dad. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
When I came back from Vietnam, both my parents had died. And my grandfather says, "Well, I'm going to help you," because I had to raise my brother and my youngest sister. And my grandfather says, I'm going to help you." And I said, "Grandpa, you live 2,000 miles away. How are you going to help me?" "Well, every time you have a problem with him, you just call me, and I'm going to give you a principle, not the answer, but I'm going to give you a principle on what you should use to solve the problem." I said, "Okay, let's see how that works." So for
Yeah.
the next 25 years, he did that. And as a result, I became a pretty principled individual, but he gave me all these principles and values, and he would always include a story with it. And it was amazing. And so he kind of remembered it. And occasionally I didn't. And he'd go, "Do you remember the story about so?" "Oh, yeah, I remember it." "Oh, got it. Okay, thanks." And I just go about my business. But yeah, those stories become very, very important. And then in business, when I was a younger person and actually selling in front of a lot of people, I would use these stories about other companies, about circumstances, about people, to relate to the current situation they were dealing with. And people would get it right away. As soon as you share a story, they get it, as opposed to just telling something, "This is black, this is white."
Yeah.
If you said, "Now, here's the story that goes with it that explains why this is black, this is white," and also says, and then there's a whole gradient of gray in there as well, and you've got a whole story that goes around it. Now people remember what you're talking about. And that's, to me, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And I recently had one of my sons tell me, he says, "I remember some of your stories from when I was a kid, Dad. I remember them." "Well, you do.
Nice.
You were listening." "Oh, who knew?"
And then you also put some of your stories in books, which is great. So for the future
I have,
generations, like I wish I would have stories from my grandparents, that they wrote down. My mother a few months back found some stories that my grandma wrote about her childhood.
ooh,
I have two
ooh,
of them, and it's so nice to have that because
yeah.
it's just she kind of went back and wrote what happened when she was a child, and she didn't share a lot of those stories with me, so it was nice. It was like having a piece of her back, reading, what
Yeah.
she experienced when she was a child.
And what a time they had, that generation.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 20s and 30s, right? 1920s and
Yes.
30s. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gosh, what internationally, what a time in life. we had that Great Depression, and it didn't just affect America. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people are so narrow-minded they think that it did, but it was a global depression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody was depressed, and a lot of great stories about resilience came out of there
Mm-hmm.
that people should learn today. They should have those stories today, and I think it would make their life a bit easier if they understood some of those stories from then.
And maybe more appreciative as well. I think it's easy to get lost in the world of I want this, I want that, and instead of that mindset, looking at what do I have and appreciate what do I have, and also think about, well, could I do with less and give away what I don't have to people who are unfortunate, or support other people or things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Let me tell you a great story that I learned early on about business. And it was a story about a guy who was an immigrant into this country, and he started a little dry cleaner business. And he'd had that business for years and years, and he put his
Mm-hmm.
son through Cornell, and his son became a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
So years go on, the son gets married, he has children, and finally goes to his dad and he says, "Dad, when are you going to trust me and let me do your books?" You don't have to do the books. They're fine. We're doing just fine. I put you through school, didn't I? Yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
doing okay. So one day, as he gets older, his son keeps badgering him, and he finally relents. The son does his books, comes back to his dad, and he says, "You're broke." He said, "What do you mean I'm broke?" He says, "You're broke, Dad. You don't have any money." He says, "I have plenty of money." He says, "Look, I think you carried the math a little too far. Let me make it simple for you. When I came to this country, I had a small suitcase and $2.34 in my pocket. So every day when I close out my register in the store, I start deducting everything. I subtract the $2.34. Everything else is profit. We're doing fine." The son said, "That's not really accounting." He says, "It is for me."
Mm-hmm.
Great story in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great. And so, that gave the son
A different perspective.
different perspective.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. And I remember as a kid hearing lots of these great stories about immigrants who came to this country with practically nothing and how they made it. In my own case, as you know, I was homeless as a kid. And so
Yes.
sometimes I've had a couple businesses fail, and I've had a couple spectacular failures myself. It just personally, I had to declare bankruptcy a couple of times because of family circumstances, and I remember my first wife, the first time it happened, it was because of her dad, who stroked out when he was 48 years old and didn't have any insurance, and so we had to pick up all the bills. And so, it was family. You had to take care of family, and we went through so much money doing that, and then eventually I had to declare bankruptcy. So my wife at the time said, "So how much do we have left?" I said, "We just declared bankruptcy. What do you think that means?" It means
We
we have.
have nothing left. Yeah.
She says, "Well, aren't you a bit afraid of that?" I said, "Listen, sweetheart, I started out life as homeless, right? We have more than a shopping cart. We got clothes, we got food in the cabinet, we got a lot of stuff that I never had when I was a little
Mm-hmm.
kid." I said,
Yeah.
"I think we'll do just fine."
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a story where you look at it on one hand and you say, "Well, I'm not there, but I am here. So do I be grateful, or do I be really upset at the fact that back here where I was. I don't know. I would choose to be grateful for what I have.
Absolutely.
That was a story that I wanted to teach my children. Curiously enough, my kids didn't even know I was homeless until maybe 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they also didn't know that I was in the Vietnam War until maybe 30 years ago. It was not something we talked about when we came back.
That was one of the things that I was just talking to my dad yesterday, and she said, yeah, grandma and grandpa, they didn't share some of those stories, from the war and from the war camp and from all those, because they were painful, and it's not something you talked about. It was kind of like you put it aside and then try to go by your life. So I'm trying to puzzle it together, the happenings, and it's just kind of like word of mouth. We're gonna see if we can get some records, but it's difficult because they shared bits and pieces here, but not a lot of it.
And my experience is that a lot of the older people used to, when they tell you a story, they would give you a little nugget of truth wrapped around a kind of fictional story because they didn't want to, it was so painful, they didn't want to give you the whole truth.
Yeah.
Just give you that nugget that you needed and then wrap it in something that was a little more palatable. And that made it really hard to understand. And I can tell you how it backfired, and if you look at the way the Jews suffered during World War II and all that they went through, I mean, it was unspeakable. It was absolutely unspeakable. And now you fast forward their children, their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren, and some of them go, nah, that couldn't have happened. What do you mean it couldn't have happened? Great grandma and grandpa went through that and we lost so and so and so and so. Yeah, but it didn't really happen like that. It couldn't happen like that. Now, why would they say
But it did.
it did? It did.
My
And
grandmother was in Auschwitz, so yeah, it did.
it absolutely did. And you see, the reason they would say that is because the stories that came from that, the nugget, the piece of truth that they wanted to share with the child, they didn't include the context. They made up a new context for it. So as a result, they weren't sharing those stories because they're so painful. They just wanted to share the little nugget of truth. And so it gets lost. And that's the way family histories get lost as well, because there's something painful that happened and it generated an opportunity for a lesson. So rather than tell the whole story, you just take one little kernel of it or a couple of kernels from it, and you wrap that into something that seems to be a little more palatable as a package.
It's kind of sandwiching it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's sanitizing it. Yeah, exactly. And then the result is you got kids today going, nah, that never happened. Nah, that couldn't happen. Well, let me tell you, it did happen. It absolutely did. And these men and women that suffered in the wars, oh my gosh, just.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And unfortunately, it's still happening today in our world. There's always seem to be a war or a conflict somewhere.
Somewhere. Yeah,
So there's still people who are suffering. It seems far away, but for those people, it's an everyday struggle. And many of them are without nothing. And
exactly. And my own father, when he came out, my father steamed into Pearl Harbor 12 hours after it was bombed. 12 hours. So that's how much he missed being bombed. And he spent his entire time in the military at Pearl Harbor fixing ships that had been bombed so that they could get them in service again. And my dad saw a lot of stuff that I asked him one time. I said, what was it like when you steamed into Pearl Harbor? I mean, you must have seen all of these wrecks and ships that were sinking or partially sunk or whatever. He said, yeah. I said, I did. Well, tell me about it. No. Mm.
Oh.
I said to him point blank one time, I said, but Dad, that's history. Why wouldn't you tell me about it? Because it's too painful. Because as I tell you that story, I see all of that again in my mind.
Mhm.
And I don't want to do that. I
Yeah.
don't want to experience it again. I just as soon put it in the corner of my mind and forget it. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, it's understandable. It's a really severe trauma to live through,
Hmm.
and, yeah, I
But
can't
yet,
even imagine.
but yet, I've had little nuggets of things about
Mhm.
brotherhood, about discipline, about hard work that all came
Mhm.
out of that period of time in his life. And he shared a story
Yeah.
with a little nugget wrapped in there. And then he put something else around the outside of it. And
Yeah, so he was able to share little pieces, but not the whole
little pieces.
story.
But that sharing that little piece didn't break down whatever was going on in there. And I know my son who retired as an Army Ranger, he's got the same situation. He'll talk about little nuggets, but he won't go into details about things. It's just
Yeah.
too painful, too painful. And I think even in my own circumstance, I unfortunately after 26 years went through a divorce. So my children have asked me about that. Rather than go through all that pain again, I just give them a little nugget and wrap it in something else and give them the story back, what they need to know.
Yeah.
But stories, the whole point of this today is stories are powerful. We have to
Yes, they are.
recognize how powerful they are. First of all, it helps to recognize that whatever comes out of here is now out there for everybody to judge, to consider, to think about, and possibly do. So you better make sure that whatever comes out of here is right and important, not
Yeah.
just babbling to babble. So my grandfather was great at that. He was one of those people. There used to be a commercial years ago that when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. That was a stockbroker. So when E.F. Hutton listens, and the commercial was everybody literally stopped and did this. They're waiting for the next thing he says. My grandfather was like that. Oh my gosh, my grandfather did not put any extra words into anything. If he spoke to you, it was all meat and potatoes right there, and you better listen carefully because it was great stuff. But yeah, it was hard to get out of it. And he was a guy who went through World War I, then watched his sons go through World War II. Both of them made it out alive, and went through hardships, went through a recession. I remember him telling me that at times he earned $1 a month, and the only thing that saved him is he knew how to grow potatoes and he owned his own home. Wow. And my dad said, you cannot even imagine the ways we ate potatoes. Oh my gosh. So they made it through the Depression doing that. But he wouldn't tell the stories, he just tell a little nugget out of it, which I find interesting.
Well, I have a story about potatoes for you.
Okay.
My mom shared the story because she was born in 1956 when there was a turmoil in Hungary, and there was no way to get food. My grandfather was in the police, and my grandmother was home with my mother, who was a baby, little, um, and there was no food in the city. And there was in the same building there were people who were selling food. That was their business, and they did have potatoes, and but they wouldn't give a potato for my grandmother to feed my mother. She was offered them to give the only one gold earring that she had, and they would not give her not even one potato to feed my mother. So they ended up having to travel down to the country, which the travel system was not working really well. So partially they would go with a train, but then the train wouldn't go farther. So then they would take, horses with a caravan kind of situation, a horse wagon for another part. And then they walked for the rest of the way for my grandfather's parents' house, because they lived in a country and they had some food in the country.
Wow.
So, because in a city, they wouldn't have been able to survive. And I'm just imagining my grandmother taking this journey with my baby mother and also have no food, because there was no food. And then it took a while to get there. So, and then they were hungry, and imagining all the other people who were hungry. And, when you don't eat right, when you're pregnant and you have a baby, and the baby's not eating right, and then you don't have all the nutrients and the vitamins and all that. So there's health consequences came from that for both my grandmother and mother, obviously. And the generational trauma, just
Oh,
living through any kind of
of
situation
course.
like that, passes down. So yeah,
You know
that's
what
about
you did.
potatoes.
You know what
Yeah,
you just exposed to me, don't you?
I shared the story with you.
I know, but you know what? One of the takeaways that I got.
Yes.
My wife is old enough to be your mother. She was born in '56.
Yeah, I already adopted you as my grandpa. I told you that before.
Well, I am a lot older than my wife, so there you go. Yeah. That's,
Well, neither of my grandparents are living, unfortunately, so I
oh,
rely on amazing friends like you
yeah, yeah.
to fill that role. Yeah, but it's really sad when you have that, and just to even make decisions like that. I don't know how many potatoes those people had and how many people they had to feed, but also that kindness that you talked about, the character is, there's other people suffering too. So I understand that it could be difficult, but it sounded like from the story that they had quite a bit, yet they could not even share one potato. And, that's kind of just like really sad when you hear something like this. And yeah, this is third, fourth-hand story, so we don't know all the details and we were not there. But I would hope that people um, today would share. But I also have seen a lot of people who are not. They just want more and more and more, and not sharing their time or wisdom or wealth with people who they could help.
Hmm.
You know, so
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's amazing like that. But getting back to stories.
Yes.
You know, for your listeners, if you've never tried creating a story, just try and write a story sometime. Think about
Yeah.
a point that you want to make and then try and write a story around it. And suddenly you're going to go, oh, maybe these storytellers are onto something. This is not easy. And it's not easy, but oh my gosh, it's so rewarding. Some of these great stories that we've developed, as you know, with tinytalesland.com, uh, we've created over 700 stories, and you yourself have contributed to a few of those stories as well.
Yes.
But we've done over 700 stories on that website for kids. Over 700. Wow.
Are we gonna read some of them or share any of them? Did you want to do that today, or?
Well, we can. One of my favorites, I don't know if it's in this book. Let me just quickly look. There's a story that I wrote for one of it's not in this book. I don't know which book it's in. Just a minute. One of the things we do in these books is, and the books that we wrote for children, is that we write one story in it for adults. And
Oh, uh-huh.
and to me, that's always, yeah, this is the one that's in. So look at this. This little guy
The
looks
Wanderer. Oh,
like,
I remember that one.
remember this
Yes.
story? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a little alien, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the story goes like this. I'm walking down 42nd near Broadway in New York, thinking about how strange my morning was. My head must have been looking down. I almost didn't see him. He looked like Yoda, but had small ears. He was alien like in his appearance. Hello, I said. My name is DR. What's yours? He said, I'm Meager the Wanderer. I've been sent from a distant place to explore this area. I said, May I ask what you're looking for? Meager said, I want to see how people treat me before my people come here. I asked, Where do your people come from? He said, Brooklyn. It's hilarious.
That is so
Absolutely
great.
hilarious. So,
Well, I just opened the collection book, which is from collection books from 1 to 4 of the Tiny Tales. And
yeah.
I just opened it about chess moves and life lessons,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is just a little 100 word story. But I would like to share that because I think that's just so fits in right now as we're talking about
Okay.
life and, just the different things. So during the game of chess, conflict arose between Jack and his mom. Jack wanted to undo a move he regretted, but mom insisted that learning the game was living with decisions. Voices rose and the word unfair slipped out. The clash paused as tears welled up in Jack's eyes. Mom softened, explaining the importance of rules and acknowledging his feelings. Together, they restarted the game with clearer rules. As they continued, Jack learned the importance of handling disagreements calmly and the value of forgiveness. The game wasn't about chess, but a lesson in managing emotions and understanding within the family.
Great lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great lesson.
I,
And there's so much into it. Of course, you can unpack this for hours,
uh,
but it's a because there's literally every decision we make in life, of course, have a consequence, and we have to live with that. And we
yeah.
regret our decisions, or we make mistakes. We are human, so we are not perfect, but we can try our best to be the best we can be every day, every moment, and enjoy the moments we have.
Yeah.
So it's a
Right.
really clear message, and but you can also say, okay, this didn't work. Let's try something else.
Let's move on. Yeah. Let's
Let's move on.
go
Yeah.
next one. Yeah.
Do another chess game.
Another chess game. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, these stories are so important. I really hope that your listeners and watchers here that we've got on the panel that I'm looking at, and impressive, by the way. Uh, I really hope that they take away from this the fact that they could use a story to not only teach a lesson, but soften a lesson. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes somebody have done something so egregious. And if you could just give them a story that softens it a bit and helps them understand why and what happened, it would be so much better. This whole thing of storytelling is so important. We have a friend, Gideon Fumoku, who labels himself as a story warrior.
Storytelling warrior. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And as you know, he's now become my co-author in our book CIC, Character, Integrity, and Credibility. And he's perfect for that because he's already teaching leadership to companies. And leadership backs up into families and all kinds of things. But if you can wrap these stories into it and use them to grow the family, oh my gosh, so much better, so much easier, so much more enjoyable for children. Yeah, especially
Absolutely.
children. But I think it's enjoyable for parents too. I used to do a thing in my company where I would, thinking now back to when I had an insurance company, I had a large number of employees, and I made all the supervisors uh, interview their direct reports every 30 days. And it wasn't just about, okay, well, what did you do today, Bob? And how's your job?
Hmm.
It was in detail. I spent a lot of time teaching them how to do these things. And one of the things that we wanted to do was share with them how to set goals, and how to set goals not only for work, but for family as well. And so we would do that and then check up on them and so forth. And I taught them how to tell stories in that session, and everybody seemed to enjoy it because they learned a great deal from those stories, and they really help when you're trying to teach somebody. Stories are the best way to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some stories are more pleasant than others, but I think it's important to share all the stories and share the best way we can or we know how, for ourselves, because even for us to hear the stories, I think it's important.
Hmm.
Like when you share a story with me that you taught your grandkids, I learned from that too. So, um, but it also like reaffirming for ourselves that our story is being heard and it's valuable.
Hmm.
So I think it's important nowadays even more than ever. I mean, it's always important, but just the world is really fast paced and society is really fast paced and the computers are, getting faster and faster. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it's essential to slow down, um, anchor ourselves in nature, and then also share stories,
Well, that's a good
share our
point. And
wisdom.
let me bring out something else. I know that for those of you who don't know Gabriella that well, I'm going to tell you that she's one of the few people I know who can have a bad day and walk out in her backyard, which is way low. I have a quarter of an acre. She has way more than I do. But anyway, she walks out in her backyard and just kind of communes with nature for 15, 20 minutes, and she can turn her attitude completely around. Think about that. So, don't you wish you had that kind of a relationship with nature? And Gabriella here and Gabriella in Hungary both have that. So, I guess I'm plugging your show, which is a great show. But anyway, there are so many little things that you can learn from nature as well. Um, my dad was a camper. He loved to camp. And when I was a kid, we used to go camping and fishing. And he'd tell stories when we're sitting on rocks with poles of, things in the water. And he'd tell a story about picking up Indian heads and uh, not Indian heads, but arrowheads when he was a kid
Hmm.
in Colorado, that they would go hunting for arrowheads specifically. And in fact, somewhere in this house, I have a box of those arrowheads that he found. That
Oh
are,
wow.
and imagine that. I mean, those things came from the early 1800s, late 1700s, and I have a box of them in my home.
Well, it would be interesting to find them and create a story around them.
It would be, but I'm not exactly sure what story I could create around it other than the
Just
fact that my
ma-
dad found them. You know,
exactly, your dad found them and where they could have been before and who made them and when, and
oh yeah,
you can make up stories.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
you can do that. In Colorado at the time there were several Indian tribes and still are today.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just associated with one group, but
Mm-hmm.
arrowheads were pretty standard fare for warfare at the time. And if you were doing bows and arrows, you wanted to be able to make a tip that was going to do some damage. So they make those arrowheads. And
well, that's scary to think about, but every weapon can be scary. But it would be interesting to see them if you find them, to take a picture of them and just share that you found them and where, and exactly what you shared now. I mean, that's a story. Not everybody's dad went out there to find arrowheads. Mine certainly did not do that.
I'll have to go on a trip in my own home to see if I could
find the arrowheads from the 1800s.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
probably some, you look around in my office here, you can see I got a lot of mementos from my life. And
I've been in that office.
They could be in the office. They could. I've got a storage room just off to the side here, and where I keep all my supplies and stuff, and computer parts and all that. But I'll bet it's in there somewhere. I'll bet it's in there. That'd be really interesting. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up or I brought that up. Whoever brought that up, because that's kind of interesting. I would like to see those.
But I think it's an interesting story. I mean, even if you don't have much more knowledge around that, where he found them, what kind of tribes might have been there, and you can leave it to people's imagination. But you already have more than 100 words. So it can be a story. It can be a short story. But
Margaret says to me all the time, she says, I don't know how you can write 100-word story. She says, you start telling people something, there's always more than 100 words. Always. So I don't know how you can write a 100-word story, but I do.
Yeah. I would like to share something that you wrote, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, sure.
So DR Rawson is part of this book. That's a very important book, The Invisible Lines of Poverty, that was written from people all over the world. And he wrote a story in there, but also wrote an introduction. And I would like to share a part of the introduction, because he kind of tells a story as he's introducing the book. What makes a book on poverty engaging? Do you think you understand being homeless, poor, or temporarily down in life? Maybe. For some, poverty strikes as an immediate from something to nothing. They are probably homeless. For others, it may take time, a series of bad decisions, economic changes, life events, and many other reasons. Some people will be poor for a variety of reasons. Keep in mind that the term poor is relative. As we talked about before, the $2.47,
Yeah.
I thought I was poor after we finished being homeless. Then, as an adult, I witnessed families living in abandoned 100-year-old sharecroppers' shacks. As I matured in life, I traveled to remote villages to see homes that have never seen any light except a campfire. Then to India, where young children were foraging for food from a mountain of garbage. I remembered how poor I thought I was. I was wrong. Still, others were born poor, and their circumstances may never change. This is such an interesting topic, because anyone you speak with will tell you that they know what poverty is. Really? The reality is that being poor is nothing like being homeless, just like being a billionaire is nothing like being a millionaire. Then, because being poor is relative, and yes, it is, there is the thought that a billionaire to a person with $1 million is poor. The poverty mindset can be different than one where real poverty is involved. When I witnessed people living in the shacks, I thought I seemed poor. Then as an adult, I traveled places to Indonesia, Mexico, India, Africa, and others where my ideas of poverty evolved again. Can it be fixed? Can one person or one family at a time change their circumstances? Absolutely, they can. And then you shared a lot of examples of different people who changed their circumstances. And but I just really love because just the way that you wrote this introduction, it was a story in itself, sharing multiple stories and little things that you have done that changed your view, and you said it right in it. And I think that's one important thing why I wanted to read that, because admitting that we are wrong is such an amazing thing to do, and it has so much power. When you said, I thought that I know what poverty is, and then you admitted, no, I was wrong, because then I seen people and seen people's circumstances, how difficult they lived. So yeah, I just thought that was pretty amazing, so I wanted to share it. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, or more from your
So
experiences.
there's honestly not much to add to that, but yeah, it's a relative thing. It's absolutely a relative thing.
Yeah.
So I just I think gratitude is the thing that comes to mind more than anything else right at this particular moment, and that is how grateful I am for what I have right now and the
Hmm.
life that I've had. Oh my gosh. Somebody said to me at 79, what happens if you die tomorrow? I'm a happy guy. If I die tomorrow, I die tomorrow. But I still have a lot of that I want to get done. So I'm planning on living to be 101 day. So
I remember that.
I'll get it all done by then. I promise. I promise.
Hopefully with some rest along the way as well.
Well, yeah.
Maybe not.
I think maybe rest and poverty, they're both relative.
Hmm. That's true.
Yeah.
Because if you enjoy what you do, it's not, yeah.
You know, it, that's absolutely the truth. I so enjoy writing, and I so
Hmm.
enjoy helping other people, um, that I I must be some sort of junkie about this. I'll tell you, because somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, could you tell me how to do so and so, or could you teach me how to do so and so?" And I'm there. I'll do it. Uh, and if I have an opportunity to write something that I think will change somebody's life, I'm going to write it. And I don't care how much time it takes, just because it's
And
important.
hopefully you publish it in Dancing Elephant Press.
Right. Yeah. Which, by the way, we're going to be talking about that because we've got our whole CIC series coming out. And
I know a great publisher.
yeah, I do too. And so we need to talk about that. But yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit more about your newest company. I know that this was about storytelling,
Mhm.
but I think people who know you and maybe people who joined are going to see this later. I think they're going to be fascinated about this new Las Vegas television thing that you're doing. You feel like sharing a little bit about it?
Well, sure. Our It's called the Las Vegas Television Network.com. You can go look it
Hmm.
up. So it's been around 11 years. It's done over 1,000 TV shows. Over 1,000.
Amazing.
We have over 870 shows that are being shown around the world, someplace at some point in time.
Hmm.
That's pretty amazing. We're putting Tiny Tales out there, which is great. So we're able to do that. That's one of the reasons I'm involved. We're going to be doing a TV show for Tiny Tales. Grandpa Tells Tiny Tales. We got a new TV show calling So What Do You Stand For? That's coming out,
Mm.
which is all about CIC, character, integrity, and credibility. We have another show coming out. It's got a great title. I love this. Hey, it's Vegas, baby. I kind of like that title. Anyway, it's a cross between an interview and an entertainment program, maybe more like something you'd see with Jay Leno or something like that. And he's a real entertainer, the guy that's the host of this, and we have somebody else who's a great singer who's going to be his co-host.
Hmm.
So that's a program. We have another program that's called Living Full Out, and Nancy,
Oh.
who is the host of that, uh, Nancy is just absolutely amazing. She's one of those people. Can you still see me?
Yes, I can.
Because I'm going total blackout here. So as long as you can see me, that's fine. But my screens have gone
Do you
black.
need to move your cursor? Sometimes the cursor need to be moved or clicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oop. Yeah. Well, you just went completely out.
We can see you, but you are frozen now, but we can still hear you.
Well, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, my camera went completely away. There
Sometimes with the camera, if
we
you,
go.
there you go, you're back. You're back. You were talking about Nancy.
Thank you. So Nancy, you remember like a 60-minute shows? They say, okay, we're going to cut to Charleston, and Nancy's going to tell us about so and so, so and so. So she was one
Hmm.
of those roving reporters. She would do that, and then
Okay.
suddenly she was struck with blindness.
Mm.
And well, what do you do when you're that kind of a reporter? You couldn't do anything. So she did the only thing she could do. She sat down and created a regular column with the Los Angeles Times, and she created a radio show. You don't need to have your site to create a radio show. So she did radio, and then she connected up with John Fondy, who's the founder of the Las Vegas Television Network, and they came up with this idea of living full out, and she would be the host. So she actually interviews people who are living their lives, I mean, full out. These are the kind of people, we talk about, well, when I get to the end of my life, I'm sliding into home base and I'll be broke as anything and I will have experienced everything in life. Well, that's the kind of people she's talking to. She's talking to people that just live it full out every minute, every day. And they're just fascinating people. So she does that. And then she's also involved in MVP program, which is a not-for-profit most valuable player contest. So we have all these not-for-profits that come in and they play for prizes and an ultimate prize of $100,000 that goes to the not-for-profit. So it's kind of like not-for-profit meets you're fired with Trump,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. So you do things, and if you don't make it, then you're fired, and you don't get to go on for the prize. But anyway, so we have those kinds of shows going. We have another show called Who's Afraid of Opera for
Mm.
kids. Isn't
Oh.
that cool? That is so cool. So we have that. Then we have a thing called Composers Showcase. Now, everybody comes to Las Vegas and they think that, oh my gosh, Las Vegas, just great music, great entertainment. Well, the composers that are around Las Vegas are amazing. And they have to have some place to try out their new stuff. So they do it at the
Oh.
Composers Showcase. So
Oh,
singers
nice.
sing, they play the songs, and it's just kind of cool. And they've been doing that for 20 years. They just had a 20th year
Wow, that's amazing.
2 weeks ago. But we didn't shoot that one because it was done at the Smith Center. So it was all done with union based employees. And but every other show we've shot. So we do that show. But basically, the channel has been all about all Vegas all the time.
Hmm.
We're stretching it out. We've created a product called the Trust Experience, which I shared with you earlier.
Hmm.
So we created that. So we're looking to create stuff. We're talking with a prospect who's an attorney that wants to create a show about business and how you get from one business to another and how succession is done and so on. And interesting business subjects. And we've never had a business program, so we're looking at that as a potential TV show. So it's really interesting stuff. And then the studio works and some of these studios that we have to rent in order to do the programs that we want. Oh my gosh, they're just amazing. Amazing. But anyway, that's who the Las Vegas Television Network is. And John Fondi's a
Well,
great.
that sounds exciing.
He was an actor in Hollywood for 20 years. He was a host here for 10 years in Las Vegas as a host on a news program. And then he started 11 years ago, started the Las Vegas Television Network. So that's kind of the growth. And it's been very, very interesting. And I joined him as a partner in the company because I thought there was a lot of things that he could do. And he felt there was some things that I could show him that would be helpful to this company. So I agreed to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Anything else about storytelling or anything else you feel like that we have not talked about that we should mention before we conclude our day today?
Well, if you're looking at fine examples of storytelling, you have to go out to tinytalesland.com and look at some of those stories out there. Oh my gosh, they're such great stories, and we have over 600 unique characters that we've designed that nobody else has. They're kind of fun, and it's just a great place to go. But one of the things we're doing with CIC, in fact, our friend Gideon is the one who's doing this part of it, is called Life Labs. So you can be taught about character, you can be taught about integrity, you can be taught about credibility, but what are the stories associated with that? I mean, give me a story where there was a lot of pressure and somebody's integrity was at risk. So he's taking real life examples from businesses that he's been lecturing to for the last more than 6 years all over North America. So we're adding a few stories at the end of each one of those chapters: character, integrity, or not chapters, but volumes, and credibility. And then we're also going to produce a separate book that'll be like a never-ending book. Here's volume 1 of Life Labs. Here's volume 2, all examples of where this came into play. And so people can look at it and go, wow, yeah, that example kind of matches what I'm going through right now. And hopefully it'll help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're doing that with storytelling as well. And he's, as you know, he's a master storyteller to be sure. So anyway, that's what's going on.
Thank you so much, DR, for joining me today and sharing your stories and experience and all the amazing things that you're keep doing. And yeah, if you guys want to check out, it's very simple. You can just Google Tiny Tales or DR Rawson and all the amazing things that he's doing coming up. He's also Medium and Substack. And if you need to connect with him, you can reach out to him. What is the best way?
Oh, the best way is my email is pretty simple. It's my full name at gmail.com. That's simple. DR
Rawson at gmail.com. You can find him.
Yeah, you can find.
Thank you so much, everybody who is. Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. You can find us easily.
That's it.
Way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for everybody who has joined us today and for everybody who is going to watch this in the future. I have a special tab in my YouTube channel that just says DR Rawson. So you can just Google DR Rawson in my YouTube channel and you can find all the amazing videos that DR Rawson have been a part of, because we had multiple projects and different things together and a lot of interviews. And the interview that we mentioned earlier with Louis Harrison and DR Rawson's grandkids are also on there. So thank you so much for being here. And until we see you guys next time, have a beautiful day and go out to nature if you can and write something if you can.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.